Answer the question, how good are they? Simple as that. How good are they? We'll start with Miami. Now, Miami, they've now added a ranked win to their resume with Louisville's win this past weekend. Louisville now in the top 25. Miami also has a win against 6-3 Duke, 5-4 Virginia Tech. Everyone else that they've played is 500 or below. I look at Miami, and the thing that amazes me is it's like when they rev their engine, they go, and it's all she wrote. Done. You're not beating them. The problem is I don't seemingly get that 60-minute performance very often. I got it against Florida, but that was about it. I want to see Miami for 60 minutes play the way they're capable of playing, and then I'll feel a lot better about them making a deep run here in the college football playoff. But they're going to get in. I expect them to win out. I think they're going to be 12-0 when they get to the ACC title game, where they'll probably face SMU, depending on how things go for the Ponies. But I think Miami is good. I do. I just think they're very inconsistent on the defensive side of the football. Let's go next to Indiana. Indiana's sitting there undefeated, and because they're not some name brand, people are still having a tough time getting on board with what Indiana has accomplished. Now, I look at their resume and I'm underwhelmed. Their best win is against Nebraska or Washington. Take your pick. Both teams are a combined 10-8. So neither team's really all that good, 5-4 each. But they've won all 9 games by 14 or more points. That's only the 6th time that's ever happened in the Big Ten. They've scored 40-plus in 7 straight games. That's the most by any FBS team this season and the most in the season in school history. So while I look and I acknowledge that the teams they've played against aren't great, I also have to look at how they've played against those teams. And it's not just on one side of the ball, I might add. They're doing it with their defense as well. So I think Indiana's really good, but I am a little bit curious to see how things will go when they play against a team coming up like Ohio State or even like Michigan this week. I think they're considerably better than Michigan. I do. But Ohio State, we're going to find out all we need to know. Can Ohio State get it? Sure. Can Indiana get it? Absolutely. But I wonder if we are falling victim to our assessment of Indiana, a little bit like several fell victim on the assessment to Clemson. Like Clemson was beating the brakes off everybody, but nobody they beat was really very good. And they play a halfway decent Louisville team, and look what happens. Notre Dame, are they good? I think Notre Dame's really good, by the way. Like I watch them, and people will continue to beat the drum about NIU. I get it. I am not some Notre Dame homer or apologist, but they had one bad game. They've beaten Louisville. They've beaten Texas A&M. Georgia Tech's above 500. They beat Navy. I think the shine's kind of off that performance, but I just watch how many times they hit Tyler Shuck. I watch how many times they harassed other quarterbacks, how they've had to kind of weather the storm. They've had some guys that were injured. I look at how they're running the football, how Riley Leonard continues to get more comfortable. Like I think Notre Dame's very real this year. Can they win the national championship? I don't know if I'm going to go that far, but I do think that this is a really good football team, regardless of what their resume or regardless of what their record would tell you at the moment. And then finally, it's Tennessee. Now, I think a lot has been made about Tennessee's poor starts in football games. They've been poor in the first half of football games multiple times. They have 3 wins against teams that are above 500. One is Oklahoma, who's 5-4. One is NC State, who is 5-4. I don't think either of those 2 teams are very good, but I do think Alabama's pretty good. And they do have a win against Alabama, and that should be acknowledged. Plus, when I watch Tennessee, I just feel like there's more there. I feel like they're constantly taking their shots offensively. I feel like they're constantly trying to push the ball downfield. They're trying to manufacture big plays. If they just were a little bit more methodical, I feel like they could run some teams out of the gym. We just don't see that all the time. So that might be something worth tweaking, but I think Tennessee's really good as well. So to sum things up, everyone I just listed, I think is really good. You don't get to this point of the season with a really good record and not be a pretty good football team. You might have flaws, but I do think all those teams are solid. It's just how many are actual national championship contenders. That's what we'll find out here in the next couple weeks.